Michael Collins would like to know which wrestler was the biggest pain in the rear end to deal with at Stampede. I guess maybe from your era and also your dad's, who would it have been? Hopefully not me.
No, no. I'll have to be honest. I have to say, Bad News Allen. Um, he was very well paid. He was the highest paid wrestler. On our promotion, and that wasn't the problem in itself, but he wasn't the drawing card that he should have been on our promotions, and sometimes the issues he had, sometimes the wrestlers, sometimes brawling outside the ring and among the fans, and issues with fans and potential lawsuits, and he became a target for the Boxing and Wrestling Commission in several cities like Calgary and Edmonton. He always just went overboard and sometimes didn't do what he was told. Was hard to handle. Could be very standoffish and militant at times, and he had an incredible athlete and legitimately one of the toughest guys in the business. Everybody respected him, somewhat intimidated by him, and feared him, but he could be very hard to handle, and there were a lot of problems he had with other wrestlers, and I know that's going to be one of our topics in this podcast later that you and I talk about, Devin.
Well, we can get into that now since it came up. Cuban Assassin Jr., Richie Avicito, I forget the last name. Yeah. He had brought up the conflict that Bad News had with his father that I had read about in Brett's book, speaking of Brett's book. And you were telling me you knew some details about that that you could further explain to the fans.
There's been a lot of versions of what happened between Ellen and the Cuban, and what went wrong in their friendship, and then led to a very serious arch rivalry between them. That ended up in a couple of violent confrontations. Where weapons were involved, and very serious injuries, inflicted by each on the other, and could have ended more tragically in serious injuries or a death. And I was well aware of it because they were both working for the Stampede promotion, and I was dealing directly with both Alan and Cuban. I was the TV director at the time, but sometimes I was an assistant booker and would handle a lot of the instructions for the spot shows and out-of-town shows. And I remember at the time, this was a few years after, I guess, and we have to put things into perspective because these two were both best friends at one time. They had been regular tag team partners on the Stampede promotion in 1983, 84, and had some incredible matches with Brett and Jim Neidhart and the British Bulldogs. And they were like brothers. They were so close to each other, and Angel, or the Cuban as we call him, was the best man at Alan's wedding in 1984. There's such a close friendship there, and both liked each other so much and would do anything for the other. And it was hard to believe that a few years later, after a couple of incidents that happened, I guess, led to some conflicts between them, and all of a sudden they became very bitter enemies, and kind of escalated from there. So I can kind of explain what happened, but so they had been very close and friends and allies for a couple of years in the mid 80s, and then my dad closed the promotion, as most people know, and then restarted the Stampede promotion 1985, 1986, and both Bad News and the Cuban were working for a promotion, and at the time, sometimes Angel would be the booker for us on our shows, especially if one of the Harts or a family member couldn't be at the shows. And I remember Bruce was out of action for a while. Bruce had blown his ACL in a match and tore his knee ligaments and was out of action for about 5 months, and couldn't go out of town to any of the road shows. And Owen hadn't started wrestling yet, and I was I was doing an intern teaching program, so I was only going to some of the shows, usually like Calgary and Edmonton. So we hired Angel to be kind of the booker for those shows, and he would get his instructions usually from me or my dad on what the finishes were, and um, and those details of the shows. And so there was a situation. I guess this would have been in the spring of 1986, where we had a spot show in Saskatchewan, and Angel had been given his orders or directions to run the show, and what the matches were, and the finishes and all that. And he always did that very diligently. Angel was such a good representative for us, very, very reliable, and he would always check with us at the end of the shows and let us know how things went. And he was just a great agent. Plus, he was an excellent booker, and probably one of the best finish guys in the business. Angel, he was so innovative, and he could come up with any finish between two guys. He could come up with a good scenario that would lead into a finish in like 2 minutes, and make both of them look good. So all around, he was just great for that role when the family couldn't be at the shows. But anyway, but there was a spot show we had in Saskatchewan, and Alan was booked in a singles match. I think he was supposed to wrestle Dave Sheldon, the Angel of Death. And he decided he didn't want to wrestle in a singles match, and he took it upon himself to change the layout of the card and just said, "No, I'm going to put myself in a six-man tag match with two other wrestlers." I think it was maybe Jerry Morrow and Woody Diamond, a couple of other black wrestlers. And Angel said, "Well, those aren't the orders. That's not what Ross and Stu asked for." And Angel and Alan basically just thumbed his nose, and just said, "Well, this is what I'm doing. I'm not working in a singles match." And I think and the boys retired. They wanted to finish the show early, and I know the travel had been long for a lot of guys, and the morale wasn't that high on a lot of the shows. Business hadn't been great for some time. So Alan just kind of took it upon himself to change the match and the layout of the show, and didn't figure anything would come of it. So Angel reported that back to me at the end of the week, and I realized how difficult the position he was in, because he didn't want to be ratting out bad news, and this was the guy that was his friend. He'd been the best man for his wedding and always had gotten along with him. But Angel was always very honest, and he just said, "Well, this is what happened at that show," and and he didn't make a big deal of it. He just said, "This is what happened," and he wanted me to be aware of it. So I was somewhat upset about this, and I didn't feel I could approach Alan about it. At the end of the week, he probably would have been pretty oppositional and defiant with me. Especially since I was a lot younger, and who was I to rein in bad news Alan, or be reprimanding him for not following directions, or doing what he was told. Even though he was making so much money, and should have been just doing what he was told. So I approached my dad about it, and I just said, "Well, this is what happened in the show." And it hadn't been the first case where Alan had changed orders and not done what he was told. And sometimes it could be like that. If he was working to rule, or just not happy with the way the match was going, he would just change it. And a lot of times he'd gotten away with that. So I let my dad know about it, and my dad called him aside, I think at the TV tapings in Calgary a few days later, and very subtly approached him, not in front of the boys or anything like that. Just said, "I'm paying you a lot of money, and I'm counting on you to be a leader, and you're one of the top stars, and you're going to lead by example. And if you're given orders, you need to carry them out. And if there's a problem, you contact me, but you don't just change your matches or finishes to suit yourself, So, and I think my dad was very tactful and diplomatic about that. But I guess Alan didn't like that, and really overreacted. And my dad never cited Angel as the source, But I think Alan must have figured out, well, Angel must have ratted me out to the office, and Stu kind of reprimanded him, in his eyes anyway. After he should have just let it go, and moved on from it. But he was very pissed off about it. So then after that happened, He started taunting Angel and referring to him as a stooge in front of the other boys, I guess, in the dressing rooms and in the vans on the road trips, and this went on for several months. We would be saying, "You gotta watch. There's a stooge here in the dressing room. If you say anything or do anything out of line, and constantly referring to Angel as a stooge, and really just taunting him and belittling him, and this happened for a long time, and that shouldn't have happened. And I suppose we should have dealt with it, but then Alan left the promotion then for a long time. He was gone for almost a year. I think he went to Florida and he was making trips to Japan. So we just kind of hope things would kind of cool off there, and there wouldn't be any more agitation or anything. We had no sense that it was going to escalate, and become, you know, uh, more than just verbal, but it certainly did, And then a year later, when he came back, I guess it kind of continued. And I think for the most part, Angel was just ignoring it. He wasn't engaging Ellen. And he certainly didn't want to look for a fight with Bad News Ellen. So and but it kind of escalated, and at this point, I think the wives got involved, and there's a lot of misconceptions that the wives were the ones that initially caused the dissension between them, and that's not true. There's already bad blood between them for at least 9 months, from that incident at the spot show, and then the wives really didn't get involved until sometime later, and then I guess they started defending their husbands, and then there's some tension, I guess, between Bad News' wife, Helen Coach, and Angel's wife, Pat Acevedo. And there was some incident at the Mohawk gas station where we used to meet for it was the meeting point to leave for the shows to Edmonton, and then we would stop there after the shows were over, and it's where the boys all parked their cars and gassed up for the shows. And I think the wives quite often would wait for their husbands to come back, and they would just wait in the parking lots in their vehicles. And there was some incident in the parking lot that night when the Rusties were coming back from Edmonton. And I'm not positive about what happened, but apparently Helen Coach thought Pat Angel's wife was bad mouthing her or trash talking Alan, and the way he was treating Angel, and so she confronted her in the parking lot when she was sitting in her car. And I'm not sure what exactly happened. Either she punched her or slapped her, but there was some altercation between the wives that happened there. And then when Angel got back, I guess from the show in Edmonton, must have been like 2, 3 in the morning. He was very upset. He was outraged. He called Bad News on the phone and confronted him about his wife attacking his wife in the parking lot, and this is a case where the Rusties are having to defend their wives, and stand by their wives, but it can also escalate things, where you have to defend their honors, and unfortunately, then there's no turning back. There's no mediation. There's no cooler heads prevailing. So apparently, in this phone call, there's some heated verbal exchange, but they agreed to meet in the Denny's parking lot over in the south end of the city. And this is where each of their versions of what happened are a little bit different. And I just picked up speaking with both of them after and hearing them talk about what happened after the incident. And there was definitely some discrepancies between each of their versions of what happened. But Angel, his version was that he went to the Denny's parking lot to meet with Ellen and talk it over, that he really didn't want to have a physical altercation or a fight with Ellen of any kind, but he went there to settle it like men, and to try to leave the wives out of it. And that was his version, and yet, he had a knife in his boot. Like he seemed prepared if it came to that, to use his knife. But he said, he went basically to try and reason with Alan, and the trash talking, and the stuff that was going on between them, and certain boys were taking Alan's side, and some boys were taking Angel's side, and it was creating kind of a toxic atmosphere in the dressing room as well. So Angel said he went there, to talk about it man to man, but did not want to get into a physical fight with Alan. Alan's version, though, was that you know uh, the phone call was basically a challenge, like meet me in the parking lot and we'll settle it, and Alan basically came there to fight, and so some differences from each of them and their accounts of what happened. But anyway, so they met in the parking lot at this Denny's, which was still open. Denny's is always open 24 hours. And this must have been about like 4:30, 5 in the morning. It was long after they had gotten back from the Edmonton show and they'd gotten home. And then they had this heated phone call conversation and they meet at this parking lot in the Denny's. And I guess they came together. They walked up together, and Angel said he walked up not basically prepared to fight, kind of leaving himself open, and boom, Alan punched him right in the nose, broke his nose, split his nose, and then the fight was on. At that point, then Angel pulled out his knife from his boot and slashed Alan several times. And Alan's wife, Helen, was there. I'm not sure why she came. Maybe she was there out of concern for Alan. Maybe she was there to lend him moral support, but she showed up there. I don't believe Pat, Angel's wife, actually came. I think she stayed at home, but I could be wrong in that, but I don't believe she was there. But Helen Coach was there, and somehow in the melee between Alan and Angel, she got stabbed as well. She got slashed several times, I think, in her hand and maybe her wrist. So I'm not sure what was happening there. If she was trying to intervene or get in between them, or if she was trying to assist Alan in the fight. Angel basically just said, I was defending myself, and it was unfortunate she got victimized in the process as well, but it was probably not where she should have been, in a situation like that. Wives or girlfriends should have just stayed out of it and not been involved, putting themselves at risk. But after that happened, Bad News then got a baseball bat. I don't know if Bad News had a knife himself. I believe he did, but I know he got a baseball bat when he was chasing Angel in the parking lot, and then Angel got himself in his own car, and then Alan took the baseball bat and smashed Angel's windshield and I think his headlights, and by this time it was creating quite a commotion, and people in the restaurant noticed these two guys fighting, and knives involved and baseball bats and windows being shattered, and the police were called, and I think both of them were detained and questioned, and I don't think either one of them was charged. But and both suffered some injuries, and it was just a very unfortunate situation that happened. It should never have escalated to that point, but and then there was an incident later, and I guess we can lead up to that. About 9 months later at a WWF TV taping. But after that incident, which was in the spring of 1987, Angel left the territory and he went to the Maritimes. And, obviously we couldn't have both in the promotion, and he left, which was unfortunate because he was one of our top hands, and he was getting a really good push at the time. We were getting ready to put the tag team titles on him and Jerry Morrow as the Cuban Commandos, and he abruptly had to leave and then go to the Maritimes, and Alan stayed on. So then we heard Alan's version of what happened, and some of the boys sided with him. Some of his followers or guys that were loyal to him, and then others felt more sympathetic to the Cuban because they felt he had been bullied and harassed by Alan for some time, and that Alan was really being the bully and the aggressor here, and could have been more moderate and just moved on from the incident that first happened, and moved on. But unfortunately, it escalated and it got out of control, and it's just very sad and scary, that it got that out of hand, and it could have led to serious injuries or even deaths, and I can say this, Alan is probably unequaled or unmatched by most in a street fight. He was an expert in karate and martial arts, and grew up in New York, probably where he had a lot of fights and was legitimately very tough. And probably unmatched by very few in the business, but nobody could outdo Angel in a knife fight. Angel grew up in Puerto Rico, and he knew how to use a knife. He probably had to use it a lot of times growing up there. And as calm and easygoing and pleasant a guy as he was, you just didn't mess with him with a knife. And in this altercation, Alan was very lucky. He didn't suffer more serious stab injuries, but it was just such a horrible incident that was so unnecessary and needless. But I'm going to let you kind of interject there, Devin, and then I can talk about what happened about 9 months later at the TV tapings, which saw further escalation of hostilities between them at the WWF TV tapings.
Yeah, this was all documented as well in an article by The Armpit that you told me to look up, which I did look up. And apparently, this TV taping took place January 6th, 1988, in the Nashville area where this confrontation happened. And I guess it was supposed to be the Cuban Assassin's first night with WWE. It's uncertain what exactly the role he was going to have there, but this confrontation happened between Bad News and blew up and caused that opportunity to be denied, I guess.
Yeah, I think their dates are a little bit wrong there. I think this was actually February of '87 because Alan was still working for our promotion pretty close to the end of January in '87, and then he had basically been signed to a contract by WWE. They brought him in for some TV tapings, and he got over great. They really liked his look, and they had big plans for him. But I think this incident took place sometime in February in Kansas, either in the state of Kansas, Missouri. I haven't actually found the exact dates of the shows, but I think it would have been in February. And Alan had been there just a few weeks. He was getting a pretty major push on TV. They were putting him over, and they had big plans for him to work program with Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, and so they were already committed to using him and giving him a pretty big push. Angel, and Angel's work was just incredible. There's so many promotions that heard about his high flying style, the great bumps he took, the matches he had consistently in a lot of the smaller territories, everywhere from Stampede to Nashville, to Puerto Rico, to the Maritimes, and he had a great reputation, as a great bump man, a great high flyer, and somebody who couldn't have a bad match. So they were interested in bringing him in, sort of as a Sandinista tag team. And I think they were going to pair him with a guy named Tio, who was one of the Samoans in a different tag team, but he had a darker look. And that was my understanding. They were going to pair Angel with him because they were both really good tag team aces. And I think it would have been a great opportunity for Angel. He would have done so much in the tag team division there. And I think he would have had a long run there. I think he could have made some great money, and there's so many opportunities. And this would have been at the peak of his career, and the chance to make it to the WWF and make some really good money and have that great exposure. And he really deserved that. He earned that opportunity. So they brought Angel in, for I think a dark match. They wanted to look at him and see what he could do, but I don't think the WWF, the WWE, realized the heat that Alan had with Cuban, in Calgary, and that they'd had a knife brawl like 9 months earlier in a parking lot. They had no idea. They brought Angel in, to have a look at him, maybe in a dark match or something. So I guess they were in the dressing room. I think it was prior to the show or during the matches, and I don't think Alan had any idea that Angel was brought in. He was just sort of brought in for a dark match, and they have a look at him, but they hadn't announced him or advertised him. So Alan had no idea that Angel was going to be there, and he saw him in the dressing room, and he just flipped right out. Went right after him, and then I guess started chasing Angel in the dressing room around a big table, and from what I'd heard from Dynamite, Davey, and some of the others who were there, who witnessed it, Angel shouted, "Not now, not now! Like, this isn't the time or place to settle this." Um, and then one of the agents was there, a guy named Jack Cougar, who used to be Angel's tag team partner with the Cuban Assassins. He was working as an agent for the WWE. Apparently, he threw the knife to Angel. I don't know if he just had his own knife or if he maybe was concerned that there could be hostility between Alan and Angel, because Angel must have been concerned about that. So, I think he knew Alan was going to be there, and he hoped there wasn't going to be any, altercation or problems there. But of course there was. And Alan went right after him. And there was no holding back. So Jack Kruger threw a knife to Angel so he could defend himself, and then Alan started looking for anything he could use. He started. He grabbed some of the tripods and TV cameras and smashed them, and was trying to use them as a weapon against Angel and to stop him from using his knife, to stab him. And so this is all going on in the dressing room among the wrestlers and agents, and it was just chaos. And they all had to get in and separate them and get in between them. Luckily, nobody got hurt, because everyone kind of got in between them and separated them. But it just showed that there was still a lot of tension there, and they hadn't cooled off, and Alan wasn't ready to let it go. He hadn't forgotten what had happened with Angel the year before and what he had done to his wife, who was injured in that brawl that they had. And so, from my understanding, then Vince had to make a decision, and he spoke to both Alan and Angel individually, and because they were already committed to using Alan and they had big plans for him, a big title push, and they wanted to launch him as a new Black Afro-American star. They couldn't really give up on him, even though there's this problem he had with Angel, but they couldn't hire both of them, and they hadn't really seen Angel or had a look at him, so they basically didn't offer Angel a tryout or a contract, and I think they just they had to explain to him, because of the issues you have with Alan, we can't bring you in at this time, and that was really unfortunate, because he missed out on that opportunity, and in my opinion, he probably would have finished his career there. He would have been great in the tag team division, and I wouldn't have been surprised after if he was given a position as an agent or a booker, just because he had such great ideas and could put together incredible finishes for any wrestlers, and he was just such a reliable employee and agent, and they could have easily groomed him for that role, or he could have become a coach, because Angel was just one of the most knowledgeable, one of the smartest guys in the business, and he really missed out on those opportunities. But there was a cease and desist order, though, that was given to Alan. So when Vince basically told Alan, "I'm not going to hire the Cuban, we're committed to using you," but he warned Alan in the process, you're not to have any contact with Angel. You leave him alone. There's to be no issues or altercations at any shows with Stampede Wrestling or in Calgary, where they were both living. And Vince warned him, if there's any repercussions or further incidents, that's it. You're finished. You'll lose your job. So Alan had to abide by that. So he didn't want to give up the chance to make that money and get that big push. So he didn't feel the score was settled, but wisely he he held back basically and just didn't approach Angel anymore, and just left him alone. But it's interesting because they were both on the same flight, I think from Kansas City, wherever they were flying from, to Calgary the next day or two. They were both on the same flight. and I think Dynamite and Davey were on the flight as well. And there's a lot of tension in the air on the flight, but neither one approached each other. They left each other alone. But I understood that when the plane landed in Calgary, Angel got off the plane very quickly, and didn't waste any time. He just went through customs and was on his way, and he didn't want any further hostility or problems. I don't think he ever did, and that was that, and then he went on to continue working for our promotion, and then Alan stayed in the WWE. Um, and that's basically what happened. But there was a very surprising and unusual reconciliation sometime later, and I can certainly get into that. And and maybe that's the light at the end of this dark tunnel. As there's an opportunity to get them together many years later, and get them to kind of move past their differences. And there was a very reluctant, uneasy truce, but that happened many years later. So, but I can go into that too, Devin. But just interject and offer your own perspectives.
Well, no, I didn't know them really, so thank you for that. I think the only time I met Cuban Assassin was you used him once on one of your out of town shows randomly in the early 2000s, and I met at Bad News a few times, but you were obviously there. It is Cuban Assassin's 76th birthday today too, by the way. If he watches this, happy birthday. We're talking about you.
Well, that's great, and he's had a glorious life and a career, and I'm glad he's still with us. I haven't seen Angel for some time, but I have the utmost respect and regard for him, and I have a lot of regard and respect for Alan too. And I know he's unfortunately passed away. And it was just so unfortunate that their differences led to such a violent outcome, and pretty serious consequences, that could have ended their lives or permanently injured one another.
Put them in prison. They're lucky they didn't go to jail over that Denny's incident.
And really killed Angel's chances of a big breakthrough with the WWF. But the Stampede promotion kind of restarted back in 99, 2000. My brother Bruce and I started the promotion. We had a new crop of younger talent like yourself, Devin, although I think you came maybe a year or two after, but we had Greg Pollock and Duke Durango and Tiger Khan, really good nucleus of younger stars, a lot of guys that had come through Bruce's and my Bruce's training camp. I was sort of an assistant coach there. So we restarted the promotion in 99, and Mauro Ranallo, was very famous as a commentator on WWE and NXT. He was our commentator, and we brought Bad News to be an announcer. Alan was semi-retired at this point. He'd had a lot of knee problems, but we brought him as a co-host with Mauro, and they were great together. Mauro was the straight baby face commentator, whereas Alan was very heelish and always identifying and empathizing with the heels and what they should be able to get away with. And he was a great counterpart to Mauro as an announcer. But at the time, Angel was hired to be booker for our shows, and he was the experienced veteran that was leading our shows, and it was great to have him there. But he would not wrestle on the Friday night shows in Calgary, where Bad News was commentating. And I don't think he wanted an aftermath of what had happened so many years before. And this wasn't good, because Angel, who was one of our best guys, couldn't even be featured on the TV shows in Calgary. In Calgary were the most important shows we had, and Angel was just making himself not available, and with good reason. So I basically interjected, and I approached Alan, and I just said, we want to use Angel on our shows. He's an asset to our promotion, and we need to bury the hatchet here. We need reconciliation here. What happened a long time ago we have to move on from. And I was really surprised Alan was agreeable to it. And I didn't think he would be. I thought he would still have a lot of hard feelings about what had happened. And I don't think they ever seen each other since. The TV tapings. They went at it in 1988, and I don't think they had any contact or seen each other. They'd never been at any wrestling shows together, and Angel had really stayed out of his reach. And when I approached Alan, I just said, we need both of you on our shows. You're performing a vital role for us as a TV personality, and that we need Angel's ring leadership and skills in the ring, on the shows. And Alan was very agreeable. He said, sure. It happened a long time ago. I'm okay with that. And I was really impressed with how agreeable he was. And so I approached Angel, over a period of a few days, and he was very reluctant, naturally. But I just said, Alan's agreed. He gave me his word. He gave me his handshake, and that meant a lot for me. And Alan shook my hand. That was his word. That was his bond. But he said that he would not provoke Angel or precipitate any violence with Angel. And that he was willing to shake hands and move on from there. So I asked Angel, and Angel was very reluctant, but very wary and cautious. But he agreed to it. So I at the next TV tapings a week after, kind of got them together, and just said, I hope we can move on, and you're both performing vital roles for the promotion, and please let's not have any more hostilities or bad blood between you. And they both did, and I don't think they shook hands. I think Alan offered to shake his hands, and Angel just kind of nodded, with approval, and that was it. And then Angel did work on our shows after that, but I could always sense, there was a lot of mistrust and apprehension there, always concern, that some bad words could lead to something, but it never did. And really credit to Alan, for being a bigger man there and moving on from what had happened. And but they certainly were not buddies after that. They were not drinking in the Ogden Legion like buddies and reliving old times. No, certainly weren't. There was a very uneasy truce there between them, but I was really happy. Maybe the lesson that can be learned here is, if you have differences with somebody, don't let it escalate to that extent where there's violence, especially with weapons. So if you're a wrestler and you've got heat with somebody or an issue with somebody, be the better man, be the bigger man, and move on from it. Don't let things escalate, and you use some moderation or discretion, but nothing can be gained, from engaging in a fight with someone and one person winning and the other losing, and then other people getting involved and taking sides, and then the office has to handle the matter because somebody will get hurt, somebody could get killed, somebody can lose their job. You can be basically replaced or terminated because you've committed violence or you've attacked somebody, or you've caused such a negative spectacle for the other wrestlers to see. So hopefully that's a lesson that's learned, and resolve things diplomatically and move on from there. Because this incident, had pretty serious and tragic implications, and it cost both of them a lot.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate, but as you said, it's lucky that they kept their lives over that, and neither of them went to jail, because in the day of the internet, that parking lot fight would have been front page news.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.